Hey, I'd like to call our special city council workshop of September 19th to order. Number 2 item on the agenda is a discussion of ordinance relating to the sale and discharge of fireworks. Staff, Leroy, you want to
I think
start?
this was requested by some local residents, and might let them start
Okay.
their ideals.
You
want me to speak about it?
Sure.
Right there. Just
All right.
identify who you are.
I'm Calvin Hoover with Fireworks of Poppin'. And we get asked continuously the last couple of years about the firework permit. Can we set them up in city limits? No, you can't. That's what we tell people, unless you have the 5 acres. Well, we get the response, that's not right. Basically, they're getting discriminated against because they don't have 5 acres. It's only for the rich people. So I told them I would bring it back before the council and see if something could be done. My personal opinion on the deal is, it's free money to the city if you sell that permit. You sell that permit, it's free money. We make more taxes because we're gonna sell more product, that's more money for the city. That's my stance on the deal. One way or another, I think it needs to go, nobody can do it, where everybody has the opportunity to do it. That way people don't feel discriminated against. I mean, Eric agrees with me on that part.
Yeah.
It's either all or nothing.
I don't know how you can do an all or nothing when you have people living in historical districts, so.
Well,
When you got a house that's, you can touch almost from side to side.
that stipulation on the form that Kim has, it actually excluded the historical district, I believe. Am I
I
right?
didn't see that in the ordinance.
Doesn't
I
exclude
didn't see
No.
that in the ordinance.
At least
The old ordinance
not
said
the
you
one
had to
should.
be
If
25.
it did, that's the
construction.
resolution right there.
Because when I originally talked to them, it was like, what about people who live downtown apartments? Well, they don't have no yard to set it off, so, I mean, there could be some boundaries set.
Well, it's obviously, as a focus, is safety. And that's the whole focus. How do you ensure a safe environment, free from, in this case, potential fires? And obviously, we have history of at least 2 different ordinances. One that had minimal restrictions, and the most recent one that went to a 5 acre before probably most of us.
No, it went to a 5 acre right before I got on, when Serena was here, but the thing about it is the only reason it went to that was because John Wood had an issue with the old one.
Because of
Okay?
the noise.
Because of the noise, exactly.
Noise.
So that was the reason it got brought up. And the 5 acre thing was just a Serena, you were here, just a Serena thing thrown on the table.
2 and 5.
It should have been a lot less. It should have been a half acre, half acre type deal. But they made it 5. I wasn't on council at that time. I was in the workshop, kind of like you are.
But, regardless of where you draw that line, there's a factor of, as your word, discrimination associated with it. Somebody that doesn't have half an acre is going to say the same thing as those that don't have 5 acres now.
Correct. The deal is people are shooting them off. Anyway, the police chief, I don't know if he was around this year when they was chasing calls and stuff like that. They're shooting them off anyway. I know Eric chased a few this year. Why not make the money?
Well, like, for example, Kim's neighborhood, that's a perfect neighborhood scenario for fireworks, in my opinion. Versus the house we had on Mansard, okay, where you can actually, you're sharing a driveway, between the houses.
Well, Brian, the permit, regardless of which version of the ordinance we have, still has a 25-foot minimum restriction for any structure. So whether you're doing it at your house you had on Mansard versus Kim's
Right.
neighborhood, you still have the 25-foot barrier as the permit lays out. So you still have that regardless of which version of the ordinance we look at,
You'll end up doing them in the middle of the street.
because you can't get 25
That's
feet from some
exactly right.
structures.
Which sometimes is actually, it's not, you look at it, it's not safe because they're doing the street, but actually it is safe because it's all concrete, but
It is safe, but it's illegal.
It's
for you to
illegal,
start
correct.
doing it, so.
blocking traffic.
That's
our
obstructing
state
roadways.
law.
They're also going out to the lakes and doing it at the lakes, which
Agreed.
is illegal,
Yep,
which I think a lot of that is what I call Edmondites coming in.
it is, and a lot of it's calmed down in recent years.
And they don't even pick up their
We
trash.
really hit hard on them out there, but
Or they stay right outside of the city limits.
Well, it's legal to do it outside city limits as long as
Exactly.
you're on a
You hear
county
these
road.
comments because you're in the sales part of it, as well as putting on a great show for
Well,
the
it's
city.
just that I get tired of the question being
Sure.
asked, how come and why is it just for the rich people? I live in the county, so I get to show
I've never
up
had,
here
I've not
around,
had,
so.
I've not had somebody ask me that question. I don't know how the other.
I've had a lot
I've had a
of
few ask me
Have you?
about it.
Yeah.
we do encounter.
I've had
on the
some, they,
enforcement
you know,
side.
and I'm gonna,
Yeah,
Every person we deal with, for a noise complaint or a fireworks complaint, asks the same question. They get to do it, why don't
I think there should be some leeway.
We turned a lot of people away in our department when they came up to get a permit.
Well, how many did you sell this year for the 5 acres? Was it like 6 or 8,
Yeah,
something like
there
that?
wasn't very many.
There's
So
hardly
you turned them
lots
away
that
because they
have
didn't have
acres.
5 acres?
Correct.
Even though it says that right on the form.
well, like my neighbor, he's got 4.5. He used to light them all the time, and we'd have a battle with him, but he can't anymore because he's got 4.5. So he doesn't get a permit. He'll have to pay a fine, and so he's not willing to risk it. You remember that, or maybe you don't. He wasn't doing
I mean, us personally, we've always had a place to set them off in the county, so it's not an issue for me, but I just want to try to do the best for everybody, you know?
Well, I suspect indirectly it becomes a little bit of an issue because it probably affects your sales.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you one way or another. I mean, as we tell people, or as I tell people, I'm not in to sell fireworks to make money. That's not how I make a living. I'm a custom cabinet maker for 26 years, and that's how I make a living. So, fireworks is just a fun. We get to go to a lot of shows, see a lot of fireworks shows. It's a year-round deal for us. So,
What do you think, Eric?
my opinion, I don't like them at all in the city limits, but we're one of the few cities in the metro that allows them. And we did it for years. A few city managers ago, that got changed literally right after I started, so I didn't have a lot to say in the matter.
What do you think?
well, his main opinion is he's fire chief. He's got to be against it.
Well, yeah, you gotta be against it, no question.
Chief?
We run call to call to call. We're gonna do that whether or not you issue permits or not. The only bad thing is the noise complaints. You have a community made up of primarily older people who, most of them don't give two hoots about the 4th of July anymore. They just wanna go to bed at their normal time. And it's call after call after call after call after call of noise complaints, and
I think that was one of the reasons to try to make it some kind of area. 5 acres is way too much, I think. If you did it a half acre or even a quarter acre, you probably would get outside of that problem area where you're causing too much noise.
Well, you're always gonna have a complainer. That's true.
It's 2
the
days
more
a
fireworks you
year.
have, the more complaints
But,
there
I
will
mean,
be.
It's 2
the
nights a
lady that
year.
lives across the street, which lives in city limits from us, because we're just on the outside of city limits, she's 80-some years old. The lady down the street's in her 70s probably. They love it when we do fireworks. They actually come out and sit in their front yards. So, but like I said, you're always gonna have some complainers, you're gonna have the ones that like it. It's just how, I don't know.
Complainers are loud.
I know people that, once they start aging, they get a little grumpy. I'm getting there myself. That's why.
Well, our ordinance does
Does it
identify.
say grumpy?
Yes, it does.
Our ordinance does identify time, doesn't it? Isn't there
Yes,
a
it did.
window?
It was till 11 o'clock.
Is it 11?
Say 11.
I think it's
11:30.
11?
On New Year's.
11 on
12
the
a.m.
4th, and then, of course, midnight on.
On New Year's.
12 a.m. to 12:30 a.m.
10 to 11, 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
And while state statute doesn't list a specific time, it's kind of the opinion of the DAs across the state that it's disturbing the peace after 10 o'clock.
Justice of the peace live in the town?
Do what?
Does the justice of the peace live in the town?
Well, you
No idea.
get into
Or they live
an
outside?
issue
What I'm saying is,
of-
I don't live in the town. I live in the town, but I don't live in the town, so I wouldn't know.
You
if-
get into an
if
issue
a
of
bunch
darkness
neighbors
there
are
on, like,
disturbed.
third, fourth, and fifth, is it gonna be dark enough to do a fireworks?
I'm just
Like
throwing that
us,
out
we
there.
didn't start until what, a little after 10 this year, and we got done at about 11, so.
But we deal with these people all year long, and we come and say, the cutoff time is 10 o'clock. So if they're complaining about noise after 10 o'clock, you call us back, we'll come take care of it. When 4th of July rolls around, they're like, you told us 10 o'clock. Well, it's 4th of July. So it's a double standard, again, that we have to deal with.
Right.
What do you think, Rebecca? Throw you right in the middle of in the flame.
So my last community, if it was on one of the 2 days of the year, anyone could do it. And I think there were some calls, but I guess we felt it was manageable for 2 days out of the year.
It's kind of my position.
I think
Have
so.
have we had any untoward events, fires, grass fires, anything
We
like
have a
that?
grass fire at least once a year.
From
Related
the
to-
4th?
Yeah. This year we got all the rain right there. I think we had one and it was out when we got there, but, you know.
See, Steve, the theory of this is this, okay? If you're gonna be responsible enough, and you've heard me say this before, you're gonna be responsible enough to go get a permit, you're probably gonna be responsible enough to go step on or throw a little bit of water on that firework that's causing a spark over here. Okay? Whereas if you're going out in the middle of nowhere and you don't give a damn, then there's your grass fire.
Say
Yeah.
personally,
I think we should permit it and say.
as we sell, we tell people how to
What?
be safe with them, how to block things up correctly.
You wanna come up here? Yeah.
Okay.
Just identify who you are.
I'm Dakota Hoover, Calvin's son. So yeah, as we sell them, we always tell people how to be safe with them. We always tell them to block up the larger things, even the smaller ones that can still tip over, cause fires. Try and just show people how safe you can be with fireworks. Like I wrote a bill, I went to OK Boys State and wrote a bill for bottle rockets. And that was one of my main points. We can still be safe as we're doing everything. You know, just take caution of if it's a dry area, if it's been raining recently, or just blocking up all the possible cakes, 500 gram cakes, 200 gram cakes that can possibly fall over. So you want to be safe as much as you can, and we even show people how to do that for
Right,
ourselves.
safety's the #1 issue.
Yeah.
So we plan on having concrete blocks as a setup this year, actually. To
Yeah,
show
actually,
people.
at my stand, I'm gonna display the proper way to set stuff up. Because you can tell people, and then I get this one go, well, I just flipped over and it shot my front door. Because you didn't block it up. No. So this year, we're actually I'm gonna have a stage out there that shows them how to do it for sure. Because you can hang up all the signage you want. It don't matter. They're excited by fireworks. They're not looking at those signs.
By having the only oasis in the immediate area, does it draw more from surrounding communities?
Well, to get a permit, you still have to be the tenant or property owner. So I mean, you may get more visitors coming to your house, for instance, if you've got a permit, but I don't know that it brings that many more in.
But if it goes over 25 people, it's considered
Yes.
a public display,
Whole
so.
different
What our ordinance calls for.
Yeah.
So what's the story with that?
If you have more than
If you have more than
25 people, it's considered a public display, so you have to actually have a special permit from.
Insurance requirements and a whole other ball of wax.
Be careful, Brian.
That's kind of why I didn't mind to the city and opted to do ours in the city, because ours was getting too
What?
big of a house.
Well, we're glad you moved it to the city.
And we have 20.
There you go.
We don't let Kim come anymore.
Couldn't you require on your permit that a hose or hydrant has to be there, that you could say?
Some water
it has
supply?
to be, yeah,
Some
it
water
has to
supply.
be
Extinguisher.
Extinguisher of some
there.
I thought it spoke to extinguisher.
Yeah, you have to have water or fire extinguisher, it's in the permit.
So this 25-person thing, is that a state law or
Yes.
something? That's so stupid. I
I
got 40 family members with kids.
Two groups, one on
We're
either
just
side of the
having
yard.
25, or they're looking at it at a
Yeah,
time.
there we go.
I'm on 5 acres,
Okay,
and I'm
so,
on 5.
obviously, we're not at a point of, we're just at a discussion
Discussion.
point. And if we want to raise it to the next level, it would come as an amendment to the ordinance. And I guess what I'm hearing is that there's some desire to have staff draft up something that is more
Palatable.
liberal than 5 acres.
Yes.
The question is, what is the right demarcation?
Do we go back
Again,
to-
we had it
Keep
for,
it- to
we
keep
had
it
it for
safe.
several years, is my understanding, before it went to
The
5
first-
acres.
It started in 2011.
2011, so we had it before.
It was 25 foot from a structure, and I guess that was the only thing.
And there was no problem, other than a council member didn't like the noise.
Yeah.
He said he couldn't sleep for those 3 days. I remember the council meeting because I watched it.
I was here. So, that's the reason we changed it.
And there is an exclusion in the historical district?
I would
If not, we
Was
need to put
was
one
there in the
in.
original? No, it was wide open.
There should be.
Yes,
Wide
there
open.
should be one in the historical district.
Okay, so there's 2 factors.
Well, does that
And
come
draft?
down to though, us doing our show?
Yeah, no,
We're in the stadium. We're in the stadium, that's the
But
story.
you're a special-
But that's public
But that's
display.
a
It's a public display, and it's a
That's
different
public
deal.
display, it's totally different use.
Can you restrict it geographically like that?
Yeah, I mean, Edmond does the same thing, they shoot them off, I don't know where they shoot them off anymore, we got the UCO.
UCO is where they go, yeah.
Parking lot up there, otherwise they're.
How does anybody know how Mustang does theirs?
Not 100% accuracy, but I can find out.
And Stroud also does it now too, I think allows fireworks.
Oh, they've always allowed them, I've never outlawed them there,
Pretty sure
It's a
Mustang
free-for-all
has the
there.
3 days, that it's just fully allowed.
Well, isn't that like Chris said, theirs
Yeah.
is like a free for all too.
All these cities.
And there is one other option that we discussed a little bit this morning amongst staff is, the flats is nice and flat, there's no houses down there. We could rope it off and charge a nominal amount per vehicle or per person and allow them to discharge them down there.
We had this talk, I don't know why we didn't do that before.
What's our liability if we do that?
That's liability on the city.
But
somebody
there are a lot of
getting hurt.
cities that do it that way, where they allow it in certain areas.
Oklahoma City used it at the
Control.
fairgrounds, I don't know if they still do.
Well, I have been to we've been to shows where they let people go out and shoot like in a fairground arena. It gets scary because you got somebody, 50 people sitting
Sure.
on the
Oh,
floor
no,
at
I-
the same time. So if something flips over and hits somebody, that's on the city.
But it can get that way in some of our neighborhoods here too,
Sure.
just as easily.
I think more of that, you're gonna see the kids running around throwing firecrackers and stuff, and probably most of your people are gonna pool together on the street, I would think.
It's usually the way it's done in a lot of the other bigger cities. Chicago, they do that. And it's illegal for everything up there, but they still do it.
Well, that's why I say people are still gonna do it. I mean, I have one elderly black man that buys from me every year. He lives in city limits, he fires them off, and I'll run back into the house. He's told me, it's illegal, but he just likes to do it, so.
I lived in a town of 12,000 people for 10 years, and we had it, it was open, you could do it anywhere in town. We didn't have any issues the 10 years I was there.
I don't see an issue with it.
It's still America.
Yeah.
And I know the fire chief's gonna be against it, but it's 4th of July and it's America.
Well, I'm concerned about the historical district because as close as our buildings are and the lack, that we, the concern of if something did happen, right, that's not controlled.
Was that a ladder
that it
truck
could-
now?
That it could spread, it could
Near
spread,
next Fourth.
it could spread pretty
We'll
quick.
have a ladder truck.
There shouldn't be anybody setting them off that close on the
Well, you're
other
close
No,
house.
enough.
I think that you could get rid of downtown.
You're closest
I
to
think-
what,
I think
First
even
Street, Second
the
Street area?
25, 40 feet away takes out the entire downtown,
Mhm.
because none of them have yards.
Well, maybe what we ought to do is is not talk about the area, talk about distance from structure. And are we still at 25 feet or are we at 40?
It's 25 feet right now.
What if we said 50?
You're gonna force 75% of them out in the street.
Street?
Yeah,
Yeah.
25 feet is quite a good distance for most fireworks, away from the structure.
As far as the base of the work, of the fireworks itself, you're gonna be contained within a 25-foot area.
What about what if it had to be 25 feet and on private property?
Already does.
Well, but downtown is gonna rule all that out, because nobody's gonna have private property 25 feet from their building. Nobody.
It'll be legal.
Right?
Okay? It's another,
But that's how it was worded anyway, before. So just put it back.
It says it has to be residential property in the permit process, so that rules out the commercial stuff.
Any kind of commercial property, yeah. Well, that keeps it in the neighborhoods.
and it rules out the street.
And rules out.
The street thing is a state law, we
That's
don't
a
have any
state law,
leeway on
so
that.
nobody should be doing that anyway.
Some people argue downtown if you have residences upstairs, it's residential property. It's mixed
Yeah, but
use.
20.
They don't have any way to get 25 feet away from the
Shoot it off in the
structure.
apartment if they want to accept the risk.
Rooftop works.
Okay, any other thoughts? Again, what I'm hearing is we want to draft up an alternative, yes.
I was telling him not to give an idea. Basic rooftops.
I don't know that we need to draft up an alternative, because the alternative is what we had before this.
Rescind the previous one or rescind this one we have now to the previous.
Well, whatever way. It's something that has to come back to the city council for a vote.
Yes.
So whether that,
We got
whether
time.
the ordinance as it was in 2015 or whatever satisfies what our city council wants now, then it would just be rescinding the more recent one. Okay, any other thoughts?
You need to enact the old one again if that's what you want to do, or
Yeah.
modify, because the new one repealed it, or repealed parts of it.
To reenact it?
Do we want to just keep it the 4th of July or?
Well, we've got right now, I think, the 4th and the New Year's Eve.
New Year's.
Third, fourth, and fifth.
Fourth and New Year's Eve.
And then New Year's Eve.
Yeah, that's.
Probably, I mean, that's.
What everybody grew up with.
Is that
Yeah.
primarily when you have your sales, or pretty much that?
Well, yeah, around the 4th for us, because we're too lazy to open for New Year's.
Okay, all right. Well,
It's too cold to sit out in the fireworks.
There's an opportunity for somebody else.
Somebody
Okay.
else can.
And yeah, there is a
It's
couple that
too
do
cold for
open,
me.
so, yeah.
Well, and there are fireworks going off at midnight. or close
We're
to-
normally at a show ourselves about that time, so.
Okay. All right, well, I thank you so much for representing people that you deal with in presenting their concern and suggestions. And obviously, we'll be taking that under advisement and seeing if there is new language or adopting old language.
I appreciate it. I'm just chief, trying to work. with
Anything else
something.
coming for you?
Come to me.
Chief? Okay. All right, city manager, last comment? Oh, wait, planner, last comment?
I'm good.
So let's get a timeline for this thing. Is my last comment.
Next city council meeting.
Okay, good enough.
Okay, good enough?